Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Conversations, revelations, and inspirations behind the books. You never know where the conversation will lead us, so let's find out.
Good evening, listeners. I'm Amy Shannon. Tonight we have a guest with us. Thank you for joining us. Will you please introduce yourself and let people know how they can connect with you?
Good evening, Amy, and thank you so much for inviting me on your program. I'm a British author. My name is Michael Forrester. I live at the southern end of the UK between what's known as the New Forest and the sea. I've been writing for 40 years. My first book was published in 1986, but I've
Wow.
been writing creatively since the turn of the century. And if you want to take a look at the kind of work that I do, you'll find me at michaelforrester.co.uk. You'll also find me on Facebook, where I post extensively, also under the same name.
Great. And I will have your website in the description of this episode.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell me the title of your book and what it's about?
Well, you've been kind enough to review quite a lot of my books on your website over the years, but I know that the one that has most taken your interest of late is this Forest Rain. And as you're aware, this is the first book in a trilogy of spiritual and inspirational readings, a combination of fiction, non-fiction, and poetry.
And I love it. That's why I love it.
Thank you.
It's
And
all
when
those
you were kind enough to undertake the review of this for me last year, the piece that appealed most to you was something called Am I a Writer? So I figured I would start with a reading from part of that. It's a fairly long piece, so I'm just going to read some extracts from it. And
That
it
sounds
goes
great.
like this. Am I a writer? I'm asking because I really want to know. You see, there's a really special reason why I ask, and someday soon I'm going to tell you about it. It's really important to me, and I value your opinion so highly. You have always touched my soul. Let's be clear about things before we start. When I say I want to write, I don't mean the kind of writing where you pick up a pen and explain things to people. If you want to know about residual interest or routes to India, if you're into baking bread or working wood, should you seek enlightenment by quantum physics or questioning psychics, I am not your man. I want to touch your soul. If I can't raise you to heights of passion and indignation with my righteous anger, then I'm not a writer. If I can't leave you outraged at my unreasonable prejudices, I am not a writer. If I can't make you smile with glee, make you lose control with laughter until both our sides are aching, I am not a writer. If I cannot stir you to protect me when I am abused, I am not a writer. If I cannot move you to tears when my own tears soak your feet, if I cannot make you cry in pain at the pain that stirs me, sweat drenched from my sleep, I am not a writer. Do you understand that? I need to touch your soul. So here's the bargain that I shall offer you. I'll tell you of the dreams that nightly wrench me from my sleep. Shortly we'll leave levity far behind. The currency of our conversation shall purchase richest fare. As we grow more familiar with each other, perhaps I shall feel confident to declare my self-worth to you. As we walk from darkness into light, I shall come to trust you enough to tell you why I no longer need to keep my sword hand free. And your side of the bargain, you know already. I want to touch your soul. And when I have unleashed the demons and the angels that scream and cry for freedom, and when I am done touching your soul, you will tell me, please, because I really need to know. Am I a writer?
I love it. I really do. having you read it to me, it just reminded me why I love that so much.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. I'm just so lucky to have you on here. And you said you've been writing for 40 years. Is that what you said?
I have to admit, yes, it is 40 years since my first book was published, although I
Wow.
write very differently now from how I did back then. In the last century, I was an author of business books, and people tell me I was very successful at it. But come the turn of the millennium, my focus switched dramatically into creative writing. And at that point, I even took a pen name, changed my name to Michael Forrester in honor of the New Forest where I live, and it provides most of my inspiration.
That is just remarkable and beautiful. I can relate in a way where when I worked in the corporate world, my writing consisted of technical documents and specifications and, business and strategies and things like that. And um, I was always big on writing poetry. And uh, and then I did a lot of drama, but then I've recently changed. I write children's books, and I have been a local historian to my area, so I just recently published my second nonfiction history book. And
Congratulations.
thank you. I am so proud of it. And then some personal things got
It sounds like
overshadowed
we
it.
have some common ground, Amy, because going back to my business days, my first book that I published, it looks ancient now, was on business strategy called Going for Growth. It was a book about business strategy for new and growing companies. So
Wow.
we have come through a similar kind of experience by the sound of that.
I think so. So what really inspired you not just to write this book that you've written, but change your course of writing?
Okay. I went through a period of dramatic and very painful change at the turn of the millennium. I've since found out a lot of people share that, and they went through change of similar magnitude at the same time. I went through a divorce, the loss of my father, the loss of my business, the loss of my home, the loss of my family, and I had a comprehensive mental breakdown. But if you allow it to happen, breakdowns can have the habit of becoming breakthroughs.
I
And
believe
that's what happened to me. I experienced a breakthrough into spiritual awareness. And that started at the turn of the century. And because my nature and inclination was writing anyway, I began writing creatively at that time. And Forest Rains started in the millennium year, and I finished it maybe around 2004 or 5, although I held off publishing it for some years after that. So that was essentially the story, a complete repositioning of life when what was then my mid 40s at the turn of the millennium.
some things. I understand that. 20 years ago, I went through a divorce, but it was a violent end to our marriage. But I can understand how things that happen, things people you lose, um, whether to death or just pull away, and how sometimes you kind of make that mental shift. And I agree with you. Sometimes it takes a breakdown or something bad to happen to make something good happen. Um, and so I get where you were coming from. So, you know, when you write, because you kind of answered this question, I was going to ask you when you started writing, but you, when you write, is there a way or like something, an atmosphere that you need to write in? When I write, I listen to music, and depending on what I'm writing, depends on what I listen to. I have a variety. I love most types of music, from classical to uh, old rock and roll. And lately, I've been listening to a lot of Elvis Presley because it reminds me of my dad and made me feel closer to him. So, is there an environment that makes you, that's where you want to sit down and write?
Well, as you know, and I don't think we've yet disclosed to your listeners, I'm profoundly deaf and I'm not able to listen to music. And perhaps at this point, I should say the reason I understand what you're saying now is this wonderful system of closed captions with the words appearing on the screen as each of us talks. So music has not been accessible to me for a very long time. But what is accessible to me is the outdoor world. And my greatest source of inspiration is the forest, and indeed walking in the forest is itself a stimulation to the writing. I mentioned earlier on that the Forest Rain is the first in a trilogy of books. The
Right.
last in that trilogy in particular is Forest Pathways, which I actually wrote by dictation walking around the New Forest during lockdown. Locals like me were permitted to walk around the forest and it was essentially empty. So you could walk for hours on end without passing anybody at all back then. And I found that being in that space, being in that energy, was a huge stimulus to writing.
So
There's some
me, that,
more than any other single influence. The forest has been my source of inspiration.
and I find that very interesting because when I was younger, teenager, we used to have a lot of woods near us, not like a great big forest, like a beautiful one like you have, but a lot of times I would just go and sit in the trees on the leaves and just write. And
Mhm.
it wasn't just um, what I could see, but what I could feel, whether it was the leaves crunching under my feet, um, and I could hear things, but also I could feel the energy, like you said, whether it's the breeze, a, a bird flying over, a squirrel trying to figure out what I was doing, so that's the kind of solace that I like too. Now most of where I live, everything is built up, and I don't have the accessibility to go through to the.
Well, if it's appropriate to undertake another reading at this
Oh,
point,
definitely.
I have one in particular that springs immediately to mind in context called When I Am Sleeping. It's been a long time, she said. Then she paused, waiting for my reply. I was ready for you, she continued, when I didn't answer. I dressed special for you, put on my finest. You always say autumnal colours suit me best. But you didn't come. It was an expression more of disappointment than accusation. I shifted my weight from foot to foot, feeling uncomfortable as I looked down at the decaying leaves. Now look, she said in her sadness, gesturing all about her. It's almost all gone. I looked up, knowing she was right. There was a quiet, muted sleepiness about her, as if her mind was elsewhere. I wanted to come, I began. I intended to come, really. She waited for more, but embarrassment made the words stick in my throat. I was in the wrong, without excuse. But you had more important things to do, she ventured. I drew my breath in sharply. No, I replied, not that, never that. Nothing's more important than coming to be with you. Why then? I fell silent again. It's hard to explain, I said eventually. There's been a listlessness about me, a drop in my energy. I've not been able to motivate myself. I can't explain why. I know what you mean, she said, gesturing to the waning colours of late autumn. The branches of the trees were becoming visible, where just a week or so ago they would have been wrapped in a coat of colour. I was depressed, I confessed finally. I couldn't motivate myself to come to you. I knew how weak it sounded. She waited for more, but I had nothing else to add. The silence stood between us like a wall, a barrier forbidding me to step across. I'm still here for you, she responded finally. I'll always be here for you. You do know that, don't you? Just like you know you always feel better when you come to me. She was right. Whenever I shake off the bonds of lethargy to walk with her, it's like she wakens my soul. I become aware not just of her and the creatures she tends to, but of the spirit that moves the heart in her and beyond. And when I'm lucky enough or open enough or maybe just ready enough, that spirit begins to move me too. And if I'm willing to listen, to open up to the truth that dwells behind the illusion. So I walked her paths again, and the silence that had been a wall became a lover's bridge as I watched her prepare her children and herself for sleep. When it was time for me to go, I turned to walk away, and then she spoke again. Don't leave it so long next time. Come back when I'm sleeping, when the snow hangs heavy on my boughs. Come and be with me in the silence. You know that it's in the silence you feel yourself again. And we both knew she was right.
Wow. I'm sorry. That was very emotional. Thank you very much. I really, yeah, I'm speechless, and that's a very rare.
Bless you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you are so welcome. You just, you have this, it's like you have a heart of a poet, and it's something that, in the previous one about, am I a writer? Have I touched your soul?
Yes.
Well, you touched my soul twice with your readings, and your work has continued to do that every time I've read one of your books. I must say that I have read it more than once, and a lot of times the ones when I say these are my favorites, I was drawn to those I've read over and over again. And um, your words have touched my soul, and the way you tell it, I can, with your voice, I can feel the intensity of the emotions. But you have this talent also for when you are writing, and I am reading your words off a page, that I am still feeling that emotion that you had when you wrote it. I can feel your passion. Um, not everybody can do that, but that's one of those things. How I know when I read anything that someone else has written, um, and if they're just writing to write, or if they're writing because they're passionate, and there's various things that you can just feel from the words that come out of the page on how the author wrote it. Some people write and they make sure everything is technically perfect. The story could be okay, but I don't want technically perfect. I want the words that come from your heart. And that's how I look at the when I do my reviews, how I could tell if someone really cares about their characters or their feeling. And what you just read, it brought tears to my eyes. And
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much for telling me that. greatly
It
appreciate when people tell me that their writing has touched them.
it
In fact,
has.
if you look at the in just inside the front cover of the copies of the books that you have, you'll find there's a great deal of feedback quoted from readers worldwide who have responded and appreciated in much the same way as you have just described.
And that is amazing. And that's one thing that,
Excuse me.
it's okay. That's one thing that I feel that makes me part of not just an author community, but a readers community, because when people read your work and they get that feeling that I get when I read your work, um, then it's it's like we've got this secret kind of thing where it's and we want to share that because your your writing, your work, you as a man who is inspired by your walks through the forest, uh, deserve to share that with the world.
Thank you so much. I deeply appreciate what you said.
You are so welcome. When after you what you said that you dictate it when you're out walking, and then you come home and you write it, does in let me phrase this properly. When you dictate it and then when you write it, are you writing it word for word, or do you add to what you're writing?
I usually email my text to myself from the phone, and the voice appreciation, the voice recognition is not as well advanced, or was not as well advanced when I did that as it clearly is now, looking at the way the captions are coming up. So it came through quite garbled, and there was a lot of work to edit it, first pass edit. But I had to smile earlier on when you were talking about technical accuracy, because it's not my forte. And I have a couple of editors who are very good at compensating for my lack of attention to detail, and they will respectively come back to me and hold me to account where something is not quite the way it should be, and I will look at making changes as a result of that. So we eventually get to a technical level of appropriateness, an appropriate technical level to be able to publish the books. But
Yeah,
that's not my
I
skill. That's a support skill. I'm very glad I have
I
it.
completely understand that. I mean, I do editing for people, and the last thing I want to do is take away their voice. So I make suggestions, but I don't, you know, if they write a certain way, I'm not going to criticize their writing style. I do, basic sometimes I do content editing, sometimes it's just proofreading, but I make suggestions or I ask questions, and that makes them look at it and then they try to see it because
I think we're halfway between proofreading and editing, actually, insofar as the last but one book that I issued was a collection of non-fiction pieces called Flashes of Insight, 5-minute reads, Flashes of Insight. And I produced 102 of these over a period of about 6 months. And among the three of us, we had to whittle that down to a publishable size. So we literally drew up columns of what everybody thought was worth including and what was better not left. So we ended up in the end with 52 pieces that went into that book, that all three of us were happy with the right pieces. So we're somewhere between, as I say, proofreading and editing there.
yeah, there's a middle, there's something in between there, and that's what brings out who you are, you on a page. And I definitely would like to read that book as well. I love your work, and I would be very interested in
You're very
reading them.
kind to say. I greatly appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
You're
It makes it worthwhile to know that what I'm writing is actually achieving some benefit to people who are reading. I write to enrich the lives of my readers, to illuminate their spiritual journey, and any feedback that tells me I'm doing that I'm on course, I'm doing the right thing, encourages me to continue doing so.
well, that is wonderful. And never stop writing. Do it as long as you can.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I have
Is that a good time for another reading, Amy?
Oh, yes, that would be great.
We have the third book in the trilogy, actually the second. This is the second of the three, called Forest Dawn. And Forest Dawn is characterized by having a little more metaphorical fictional content than the other two books. The first piece in the book is called A Pound of Peace, spelled P-E-A-C-E. And you have to imagine you're in the East End of London for this piece, standing in an open air market. And it goes like this. "A pound of peace, please, mate," said the man in front of me in the queue at the market stall. His shopping bag was packed full, and I wondered how he was going to fit any more into it. "Beautiful bit of peace this is," the stallholder commented, weighing out a pound on the scales. "You'll not find better in the market today." The customer smiled his thanks and pressed the piece down onto his bag that was already bulging with worry, regret, and frustration. It looked precariously balanced as he walked away. I wasn't surprised to see it topple out and splatter into the gutter. "And what can I do for you today, sir?" The stallholder's voice brought my attention back to the table. "How about some pleasure for your supper? Just sprinkle a bit of indolence on it, fry it in indulgence, beautiful." Tempted, I checked my wallet. "Sorry," I replied, "I'm all out of trust to pay you with." "That don't matter," he retorted. "I take all the major cards: gullibility, foolishness, ignorance. And if you've got that new one, complacency, I can even give you a discount." He winked at me. "In fact, some of my customers just transfer what they owe on their cards month to month. You can buy with gullibility today, then move the debt to your foolishness at the end of the month. That way, you never have to pay for anything, really." My eye was caught by an empty box in the middle of the table marked happiness. "What's happened to that one?" "Happiness? Oh, that's long gone. If you want happiness, you've got to get here when I open. People sometimes queue overnight for happiness, and they buy as much as they can carry on account of the fact that it don't last very long." I was disappointed. "Have you got any contentment then?" I asked. "Contentment? Bless me, I ain't been asked for contentment since I can't remember when. It's long gone out of fashion." Then his voice dropped. "Tell you what," he said, "what you need is this." He looked about to make sure no one was watching and slid a box across the table to me. "What is it?" I said, with my eyes widening. He paused and leaned over to whisper in my ear. "Gratification," he said, looking a bit smug. "Only it's black market, innit? So keep it to yourself. Take this, and in 10 minutes I'll guarantee nothing will worry you ever again." I pulled back, feeling threatened. "So what's that?" I asked, nodding towards a rather sickly-looking plant at the end of the table. "That? Oh, that's love. Don't get much call for love now. Used to be popular years ago, but it's hard work, you see. and no one's willing to take the trouble with it no more. It has to be home reared in a well-mulched soil of tenderness and watered every day with a warm solution of kindness and commitment. If you've got patience, it will grow into a strong tree. But most folk are too busy to grow love these days. You can have this one if you want it. I'm not likely to sell it before it dies now. I like the idea of growing my very own love, but I didn't know if I was willing to make the effort. So I took the gratification instead. It was really expensive and took me right up to the limit on all of my cards. Got the time, I asked the storeholder as I turned to walk away. 5 minutes to midnight, he answered without even looking at his watch. Thanks, I said, stepping over the piece that lay discarded in the gutter. I'll be back for some happiness first thing in the morning. I might even take that love. He smiled at me, but he knew I wouldn't.
Oh, I love that.
Excuse me.
That that is just so, it's so true. And I like how you put that together, like you're purchasing your emotions, like gullibility and foolishness. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, even just in regular everyday life. Oh, Michael, it has been such a privilege to have you on the show, and I hope we can do it again. Anytime you have more work, feel free to
I'm
send it to me.
delighted to be here, Amy, and it's time I sent you some more books for review.
I would love that.
Look at that, and perhaps we can do this again after that.
Definitely. So thank you for being on the show, and I hope you will come and join me again. Thank you, audience, for listening, and feel free to comment on this show or any show, and join me again next week. If you want to check out my work, just Google me. I'm Amy Shannon. Be safe, be well, and always be kind.
Thank you for listening to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. If you wish to be a guest on the show, you can go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast and schedule your pre-recording. Please follow this podcast on Spotify, even if you listen to it on other streaming sites. Also, this podcast is on every first Monday and last Monday of the month at 7 p.m. and every Sunday at 6 and 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Amy Shannon. Be safe, be well, and always be kind.